In the top left-hand side, here in this Gold Series Team Championship match, we have our blue Terran player INnoVation taking on the red Zerg in the bottom right-hand side from Dragon Phoenix Gaming, Dark. There's a best of 7 between Kaiser Gaming and Dragon Phoenix Gaming, of course. Tied up 1-1 after the first 2 maps between Dia and Cure. And now looking to see what happens in this TVZ for the next 2 maps. I am probably uploading this one to YouTube, so hello all my YouTube friends and viewers. I hope you guys are doing well. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment, of course, if you want to help support the channel. And this is a match from the Gold Series Team Championship, so it's a best of 7 team match. And these are the 2 maps that INnoVation and Dark play against each other. So they play 2 maps back-to-back, and they add up as part of the best of 7, basically. So they play the next 2 maps, and then someone else comes in for maps number 5 and 6. So that's where we're at right now. Game number 3, tied up 1-1 in the overall series. Just to explain, if this video does start here on YouTube, exactly why it's already 1-1, etc., and why it will end at either 2-2 or 3-1 for one of these players, basically. As Dark really being quite careful early and checking around for potential proxy racks locations, right? Making his way up this right-hand side to see a little bit of what's going on. Coming around the bottom side as well in the early stages. Just really making sure there's no proxy racks locations at all, as we do have our SCV building up, and INnoVation is about ready to come down and build his CC in the next few moments. He will actually SCV scout, so INnoVation taking a little precaution early in the game, just wants to make sure he gets across the map, knows if there's any sort of aggression coming his way, anything he has to be pretty wary of, etc. Those kind of bits and pieces. So he'll go and check down this bottom right-hand side for that. As you do see this Overlord of Dark still hanging around in the center, and there is the command center of INnoVation on the natural expansion too. So is able to get that started here. As this SCV comes over, Hatchery coming up to finish very shortly, as we do have again the CC just building on the natural. SCV coming through, and again Marine about halfway done, Factory starting up. A little bit of a build up here in the early stages. Zergling Speed still coming through from Dark as well, as we have got the SCV making its way out to the top left hand side. Back away. I mean, you've kind of been happy here as INnoVation. You scout early, you see what's up. It was a pool first opening, so you kind of know to keep the Reaper at home. And so these couple lings won't do much. Obviously, the next question is, does Dark do anything else? And he's got 100 gas or so beyond the ling speed now, so Roachron soon could be a way to get very aggressive in this game. Simulacrum's not the longest map to run across, so it's absolutely a possibility. What else is he going to do with this gas? Because he's still mining quite a bit of it. No third hatchery just yet either. So a couple things to kind of keep our eyes on here as INnoVation brings this Reaper across the map. At some stage, you have to send the Reaper across, because you have to figure out, is there an attack coming my way? Is there anything I need to prepare for here? Or what exactly is going on? So this Reaper coming around is actually going to relocate up the right-hand side. This drone does get to be a third hatchery just before INnoVation arrives, so Dark able to drop that down, and the tech lab on this barracks coming through as the starport's also about to finish up. And now these couple of Hellions from INnoVation are going to be moving down the left-hand side. A few drones on the way up, and as the Reaper goes into the main base, really trying to scout, sees nothing of interest, especially no lair, etc. So I think he feels pretty okay, right? I mean, there's not really been any reason for him to be alarmed. Now there is a Roach Rowan, so if this is going to be aggressive from Dark, it's going to be a little bit later. Maybe 10 or 11 Roaches supported by a Zergling round of reinforcements. But with that point, I mean, you lose the Reaper, that's a shame, but you will have the Hellions you can bring across. It might be that Dark killing the Reaper says, well, it's less likely you dive my main base again now, obviously, so maybe I can get this Roach Rowan down without being scouted, so maybe it's a reactionary choice. Maybe this was his plan all along, because he was keeping a lot of that gas ready to go. This is really down to the Hellions now to figure out what is up and to really try and see these Roaches coming across the map soon enough that they can set up something of a defense. Starport builds a tech lab, so there's absolutely room for, you know, a Banshee to start, but this is not a Banshee build order, so it's probably going to lift off and go elsewhere. Give the tech lab to the factory maybe, which is also positive, and then barracks on this reactor, barracks on a reactor that the starport will begin to build. As the follow-up, so here come the Roaches, and right now the Hellions coming across are pretty gonna... they turn around. They're kind of close to seeing them already, right? But the longer you don't see this for, the less time you have to prepare, and the worse this is going to be. I mean, the factory on the tech lab is hopeful to maybe give us something that can help. A siege tank does start, but Now you see the roaches, and now you see the Ravagers. So INnoVation realizes what's happening. But again, very, very late on here. The Hellions will pull back home. They're going to be trying to help the defense any way they can. If they can stay alive long enough to then, you know, hit the Zerglin reinforcements, that's obviously the ideal scenario. And as you do see the few units setting up, just going to be seeing the couple of corrosive bars dropping down. LCVs taking a little bit of damage as well. Rest of this army wanting to pull forwards here. Bunker's going to finish up behind the command center as we do see the Ravagers still trying to break on through. Command center still taking some damage, and that will obviously be cancelled. But it is the backline of bunkers that you're relying on here as INnoVation. Just doesn't have that many Marines for these bunkers, as we do see the first corrosive bars dropping down. Marines will have to change bunker right here, but he just lose like 2 of the Marines. Oh man, now he only has 1 Marine. INnoVation doesn't really have the damage output, and Dark actually isn't even going for what would typically be like, I think, a round of drones after this. He just knows he can win this game, and corrosive bars rain down on SCVs to take this out, and Dark will get game number 3 of the overall series in his first game against INnoVation. So Dark gonna put DPG up into the lead here 2-1, with INnoVation just falling down to that Roach Ravager attack. I mean, you just see it a bit too late. The micro wasn't great. There just wasn't the unit count to really put in the bunkers anyways. And obviously then the corrosive bars were absolutely on point to do quite a lot of damage as well. GG's, and Dark picks up that first. Starting us off for our second map between the two of these guys. It is the Red Zerg. Bottom right side of Nightshade, Dark. And in the top left-hand side, our Blue Terran player, INnoVation. Who, I would say, in general, against Dark is a little bit of an underdog, I think. Dark has been playing real well lately, but Dark can always show up and be a little bit hit or miss in ZvT. Like, some days he looks deadly and terrifying, and some days he tries to play this, like, off-brand, like, aggressive style and doesn't quite make the switches you're usually expecting to see. And then the next thing you know, Dark's, like, dead, and you're like, wait a second. You're not meant to die. You're meant to be really good. You're meant to win everything. So that's kind of the way his ZvT side feels like it goes sometimes. I mean, it's so Dark as well to just open with the Roach all in too. Like, that's Dark through and through in every way, shape, and form. Like, it is absolutely the sort of thing you would expect. As you see this Overlord turning around on the far left-hand side. And the barracks is about halfway done. Hatchery dropping down in the natural. I'm just going to be seeing the hatch gas and the spawning pool setting up in the main base as we get ourselves into this next round. So, wait to see what will happen. Actually, kind of wonder, you know what, I'm going to take a moment to check and follow this Overlord for some amazing observing. Because I'm kind of interested in when the last time these guys played was, because I can't recall them playing each other recently, like super recently at least. Dark INnoVation, let's have a search. China Team Championship. No, GSL. In June of last year. They only played once last year. That's kind of crazy, right? That's kind of crazy. They only played one time last year. One series, and they won, and Dark won that one 2-1. And the time, so they haven't played each other officially for like 9 months? That's actually insane. Because Dark and INnoVation are the kind of guys you expect at the top ends of tournaments. You expect them to run in, but like I said, I just couldn't think when they last played each other. They played each other like 10 times in 2018. And now in 2019, they played each other once, and this is their first meeting in 2020. That is kind of crazy. As you do have the hatch coming down on the third base here. Marine coming out the front will put some pressure on an Overlord, but it's going to get to the high ground and be very safe. No worries at all. As we do see the factory dropping in from INnoVation in the main base. So, yeah, a couple of extra drones on the way out. Nothing too crazy about the build order here. It is double gas. We'll see a starport before any further pressure or any further economy from INnoVation. And there's just going to be seeing the starport getting set up and ready to go. So it's going to be seeing that starport building up. Tech lab dropping down the racks, and look to see what'll happen. SCV is going to be popping out, Mule's dropping down, and again, the third hatchery building up here, waiting to see what'll go down. Reaper just going to hover in towards the main base. Will get taken down though. So again, a second time in a row where INnoVation is trying to get damage done with the Reaper or information with the Reaper and loses out on it. And now, instantly again, a Roach drone drops down from Doc. Now this time he doesn't really have like a ton of gas build up. He's just started Ling speed, so it looks similar to the last game, but there's definitely a bit of a gas difference from last game as well in terms of what he might be able to build up here early on. A couple of Hellions getting pushed back, Cloaks and the Banshee and the coming up, Stimpack on the racks, and again a couple extra Hellions popping out in a moment or two. We've got like the gas for like 6 roaches, so I don't actually think this is going to be much to be too aggressive with. In the end, I think this is more so a more defensive setup, and again, this is a map which sort of invites some roach attacks, and hence Banshee openers are very popular. We saw it in one of the previous series today already. And so Banshees are the choice from INnoVation, just keep you very safe against, on a map that's very typical for this sort of roach attack anyways. Like I say, it's only 6 roaches, and I'd be kind of surprised to see many more of them made, even if you do go across the map, because they're going to take a long time to get across, and also because Dark's actually found himself in a big supply block. So a couple of macro errors here from Dark, and he will just start the lair behind this. Like I said though, like, what are you going to do? Build 3 more roaches and then wait for them to build and then run across the map? You always supported this and reinforced this for circling this for a reason, so yeah, I wasn't expecting much more than this anyways, and the Banshee will shut this down, so there's nothing gained at all from Dark early. And those roaches are still an investment that weren't really needed to be made. And so those are still units which go down and, cost a little bit early on, and now the Banshee cloaks up, and so the Queen's in some trouble. Not next to their Spore Crawlers out in the open here, of course, so they have to go running a little bit. Banshee number 2 on its way across the map as well. And obviously we're still a little while away from a lair, which will give us the ability to have an Overseer and detect properly, as we do see actually now Hellion's going to dive their way by in towards the third base. Mineral line, Lings and Roaches coming over. They will be able to deflect and defend here in the end. Another Queen going down. These 2 Banshees of INnoVation going to come back across, and now a Queen being chased down, so gets one of those, gets the other one as well actually. He might even just dive for the last one, and it's just a little bit too deep on the Spore Crawler. But INnoVation clean out some Queens and getting some damage done. The Banshees, well, now they might have to come back to defend these Roaches, as the few Hellions that you will see them though. So INnoVation knows where they are, knows that Dark is even trying to bring them around the side of the map is really nice. Especially because now the Banshees are out of Cloak energy, it's kind of not time for them to stay aggressive across the map. So getting the opportunity to actually just defend is perfect for them. And they will clean this up for the moment. As Roach speed on the way and a couple of extra Evolution Chambers dropping down. So Dark is going to be playing out a game now from what was some attempted aggression. He's now going to turn this into obviously a bit more of a macro-focused game. Again, a couple of supply blocks maybe forcing his hand a little bit here. Maybe it was his plan all along. But in general, the Roaches didn't do much, so INnoVation, you've got to be happy for him. Building into the next stage of this now as he takes an extra gas. So our real question is, does INnoVation just go 8 racks and set up to kind of push and push and push? People love to do that on Nightshade. Does he play a bit of a longer game? It's against Roaches. And it is missile upgrades too, so it's going to be Roach based initially, probably Roach Ravager, and then switch into Banelings and melee upgrades after +1 missiles. The 8 racks doesn't work as well against Roach Ravager. You're better off just tacking up, taking a 4th and extra tanks, and using them extra tanks to then obviously, push against the Roaches, and you can still trade very well and take some good fights. I just don't see a world where you're pushing against Roach Ravager being super successful for you. As we do have our Spore Crawler pressing forward, a few Marines begin to unload. Spore Crawler will actually get burrowed here. I'm not sure what these Marines are actually killing, but they're going to be abandoned by the Medivacs for the moment. One of them is on super low HP now, trying to target down some Queens. He'll bring in the healthier Medivac and get it out of there. So it does preserve some of his units, at least, as units are rallied into the center, but again, it's kind of a questionable choice, because you've got all of this back over here that you've got to be looking at, that you're kind of expecting to be doing as well. I like this, by the way. He's rallying onto his missile turret. INnoVation is one of these players that always has, and I think always will. He's always this kind of guy who he always rallied to supply depots or rallied to a missile turret or a structure like that. It's just something he does, and then usually sometimes you hotkey that to jump back to it quickly, or sometimes you camera hotkey just that location. It's always just that like stationary position to rally to. And it's a real INnoVation thing. grabs his army now and loads up into medevacs to move down the left-hand side of the map. 2-2 upgrades on the way up here from INnoVation. 1-1 from Dark. Going to be completing very soon as well. A couple of SCVs going down. Sorry, a couple of drones going down as these Banshees make their way back into harass. And they get, you know, a tiny little bit done. I mean, 4 drones. We're kind of passing the point of Banshees being super great now, but of course, in a game where it's +1 missiles and a lot of Roach Ravager, it's never bad to have those Banshees back at home to add to the defense if that's an option, right? If there's a big Roach Ravager attack, those Banshees will put out damage. Not the biggest loss either, though, because it's also the stage of the game where INnoVation is pretty comfortable playing without them, and that's going to be because he's got so many tanks. That's going to be a snipe on the Baneling Nest. That's a huge pickoff before centrifugal hooks as well. So it really slows down the pacing of Dark's game now, because now Dark wants to be well on his way to having Lings and Banes as part of this composition, and yet here he is, Banelingless, playing with slow Banes when he gets them, and that opens up a huge time for INnoVation on the 2-2, and maybe a push that could do some very serious damage. So that should be what you're watching out for now. Big push from INnoVation very shortly. Units in position to defend this base. This drop comes in. INnoVation, very slow pullback there, and he does lose a medevac to Corrosive Biles as he lifts up. Will escape away. 2 more medevacs straight through the center of the map. I have zero idea where these are heading. Maybe the natural expansion? He's actually just going to drop down over here. That was the weirdest drop I've ever seen. I mean, he pays zero attention to it, doesn't even try and change direction or anything, but like, just in general, where was he trying to go? Like, where was he meant to end up? I have no idea. As you do see more bio from INnoVation coming back up this right side. And now INnoVation has a couple of medevacs also moving their way down to the bottom. And Overseer setting up over here as well, and, well, drilling claws on the way on the factory, and the rest of these units on the way up. The medevacs have to load up and pull back over this left-hand side. They're going to unload as well and maybe jump in for some damage. Try and fight and skirmish a little bit. Just going to see a few extra tanks setting up right now. More roaches coming down, more of this army coming across the map. I'm just going to see a few Corrosive Biles as INnoVation's drops not really doing much here, and he never really made a bigger push as 2-2 finished. Which I did feel was an opportunity, especially when you've denied the Baneling Nest and Baneling speed. Coming forwards now, maybe he was hoping his drops would do a little bit more to kind of clear the way and to give himself an opportunity. He sits up on the high ground here where the tank's obviously going to be in a very good spot. Bio simmering back and doing okay for the moment. Some extra Banelings will be waddling forward. Still no Bane speed for 10 more seconds. Rest of these Banes coming through. A few Marines will get picked up. And again, the rest of this bio getting picked away at the couple of Ravager Biles to keep this back. I mean, there's only really siege tanks here. Not much bio left at all. INnoVation kind of wanders into this army. Obviously, that's not great. So there's been a couple of sloppier plays here from INnoVation as he will try and make a dive down to the bottom side. Just going to be seeing these Zerglings continue to stream on through, and, well, the bio army from INnoVation still pressing forwards. A couple of Banes in some trouble. Corrosive Biles still dropping all over the place, and they're cleaning out a Widowmire or two that's been switched into here. So a change up on the composition from INnoVation as we see these siege tanks going to get hit by a big blinding cloud, and that means Dark can push up and clean this out. So all the siege tanks going down, because now the Widowmine is going to be the follow-up. So Widowmines from here on out, I mean, I'm interested. We see Ultras on the way, and Widowmines, again, that much more mobile, that much more able to kind of readjust positions. But typically not something you see against, I guess, a Roach Ravager count, which I guess now the Roach Ravager count is kind of gone. So it's kind of passing that point of the game, switching more towards Ling Bane with the Ultras. INnoVation still just holding back, and he does have a 5th base ready to move out too, so he's very happy to accept this going into late game. You know, he has the bases and the economy he would need to get into that late game scenario. He's just going to be seeing the Widowmines burrowing up, a few Zerglings backing off. Just going to be seeing this Ultralisk going to be finishing up. Chitinous plating on the Ultralisk cavern in the back of the main base as well. Just going to be seeing INnoVation continuing out over this right-hand side. More Zerglings going to come streaming in. It's another big parasitic bomb on some of these medevacs, and they are struggling to split up, so INnoVation is taking a bunch of damage. Oh my god, there's a ton of his medevacs going down. And the Bioforce on the ground got cleaned up as well as Dark will come pushing across the map. Widowmines first one burrows up, and the rest of them not too far off either. The 5th base on the top side now. 12 o'clock position being taken. And again, Chitinous coming through. +2 melee, +3 carapace. And the Ling Ravager army trying to come through. Nice Widow Mines. I mean, these Widow Mines could be the saviors of INnoVation here if they're getting some good connections throughout. I mean, a few of them so far have been decent. There's a few set back. These Zerglings won't do anything on their own. This is where the Ultras and the Ravagers need to make their move. Dark, by the way, I think the only player in the world who actually uses this Ultras skin. Like, literally the only player in the world. Nobody else does. Dark gonna pull back around the right. A hatchery in the top right-hand side as well as INnoVation still trying to set up in the center. Bio units come through for a couple of changeling kills. The rest of this army from Dark moving around over to this far right-hand side. Widow Mines and Bio units coming into play. A couple creep tumors already being picked off. The rest of this from INnoVation. He reaches out to the far right here, so a lot of units going to see the Lings starting to run forwards already. Widow Mines going off on a few of these Zerglings, and well, the Bio continuing to kite backwards. And again, the rest of these Ultras trying to charge on through. The Parasitic Bomb is once again in the skies, though, and that's the issue that INnoVation faces time and time again here. His medevac count is consistently being taken away. And as the medevacs fall, you have to replace them. If you don't replace them, you're in trouble. But at the same time, you might want to start building up Liberators, etc. instead. As a bit of an alternative choice. Builds up 3 more CCs, so INnoVation really is accepting the later macro-focused game here. Have the Ghost Academy finishing, so you can add Ghosts into play soon as well. As Dark, his upgrades continue to roll in, +3 carapace not far off. His melee just starting. That's not as important of an upgrade. The carapace is what's going to keep his units alive. And as long as his units are alive, they're going to end up dealing damage. As now Zerglings run into this 12 o'clock, and this Planetary Fortress is immediately in a lot of trouble. It will fall without a second glance as we see these Banelings trying to roll through as well. Rest of these Zerglings also trying to come on forwards. A couple of SCVs going down. The Planetary Fortress will, again, protect against a lot of that, as this is just a full cleanup. Dark able to shut down everything on the far right-hand side. Burrow coming up, +3 melee on the way. A few more Marauders, a couple of Medivacs coming up. The Bio on the left-hand side, getting rid of a few extra Zerglings and Banelings, and we'll actually target down some Ultras before lifting and leaving. Dark actually in a supply deficit here after a couple of these fights. Has money to spend in the bank, but INnoVation is taking some better trades. He's really killed off Dark's army a couple times here now, and Dark doesn't even have that crazy of an economy to stay alive, right? He's only on 75 drones, which, don't get me wrong, is not bad. But typically to rebuild in a trade like Dark is trading... Okay, I guess he's not trading badly. So he's actually trading well. But he has traded bad. He traded better earlier, and he's traded a bit worse now. If that trend continues, 85 or so drones would be a bit better. And you can see Dark's rebuilding to that count as well. He knows that's kind of where he wants to be at in terms of that eco as INnoVation. He just doesn't see these Parasitic Bombs. He's looking elsewhere. Finally, he stims, and 3 Medivacs are alive on very low HP. Trying to make a play to deny this right-hand side base. INnoVation, who is still, by the way, just playing Marauders and Marines and Bio. Like, he's not moved away from what has been a very kind of mid-game composition. Even though he's gotten the other tech structures up, such as the Ghost Academy, he's still just playing this out with the lower tier units, which is, again, not typically how you'd approach this. Another round of Banelings morphing in. Hydralisk Den dropping down in the main base, so Dark setting that up. Bio comes in. Zergling's going to be turned back right away. More Bio on the right-hand side. As Zergling's coming for a wrap around, the Medivacs will just have to load up a bunch of units here, bringing those away to the top. The rest of these Zergling's going to come on over, so Marauders are pretty quick to jump on those and shut that down. The rest of this army from Dark to the far right. Extra Banelings morphing. +1 flyer attack and +3 melee. Going to be finishing up soon as well. And again, INnoVation going to go on a little bit of a split, a little bit of a spread. Still this army of Dark coming forwards, and scan on top. We'll actually see Dark running away pretty quickly now, as we have a Corruptor chasing down this command center. Hatchery in this upper right, taking some hits here initially. Bio units will continue to fight. Ultras will go down, but the mine's actually catching a couple of Vipers. And these are fights which INnoVation is still doing all right in. Don't get me wrong, those Parasitic Bombs have been pretty deadly here. As he picks up another Ultralisk, he's going to clear up the space to take this base. Meanwhile, he's got to drop over here being cleaned out. He's got this base here as well, which is just an orbital, so he has to be very careful about it. Sends a couple units over, a couple of Widow Mines to help defend. It's scrappy from INnoVation, but he's been building up a bank to rebuild, and obviously his rebuilds are pretty cheap. I actually kind of love what Dark is doing. Obviously, Corrupt is against the Medivacs and against what could be potential Liberator production if anyone's playing a normal game. Playing a game where INnoVation isn't actually just sitting on bio units. But the Lurker Den, it's getting into that scenario where it's getting a little bit scrappy. It's getting a little bit all over the map. And Lurkers are going to be really good at slowing down INnoVation's composition, which is just full on bio focus and running around everywhere. They're going to really hold down a couple of defensive positions Dark has not necessarily struggled with, but has traded badly to defend. So, a couple of Lurkers here immediately stops the push down here is easily happening, right? So, I like the idea of what Dark is setting up for with those Lurkers. And again, it's not typically something you would see in this sort of scenario because it's not been like a Lingbane Hydra game. It was as Roach's Ravages into Lingbane afterwards. And now switching into towards Lurkers late game like this, that's not something you usually see. That's a little bit, again, like off-brand ZvT that I was talking about, Dark doing things a bit differently. I mean, Lurkers can absolutely be using ZvT, but getting to them in this sort of way is kind of surprising as the Overseers came in and tanked every single Widowmine shot from the left-hand side. However, as Dark wins this fight, INnoVation wins out on the right side of the map, and Dark's base count is getting very, very low now as we're going to be seeing these Banelines continue to roll on through. The Marauders split away to soak up as much as possible. The Zerglings then make easy pickings. The Medevac's falling down. Widowmine's over here, and the Zerglings will split away to minimize damage taken. Widowmines don't do half bad at the tail end of it, though. And it's just the fact that Dark's down to 5 bases. I mean, I guess he will clean up this base over here. These SCVs from INnoVation in trouble. I feel like trying to run from this is a very brave prospect. He might get a couple away. He is pushing on the bottom left, though, so as long as he's got Dark chasing on the top right, he's got more room to work with on this bottom side. Now INnoVation is starting to see that these Lurkers are here. Seismic Span is not in play yet. When it is, those Lurkers are going to reach that a little bit further, and they're going to do that much more as Widowmines again desperate to try and help out wherever they can, blowing up any Zerglings that are running into this. Corruptors will caustic spray down the Planetary Fortress. Mass Repair will not get the job done. So both players are losing their bases and their established setup on the right side of the map now. This hatchery went down. This base has been fought over a long time, hasn't been taken. This base shut down for INnoVation. So players losing out on the right side of the map. Obviously, Dark lost this base too, but this is a position he can hold with Lurkers. And that is a big deal breaker, right? That's absolutely a difference in what we've been seeing. Now you can hold down some of these positions more easily. INnoVation, I think, really has to think about slowing this down because his army is not made to fight Lurkers. He goes high-sec auto attack and Neosteel armor. Again, he's got the Ghost Academy up. Maybe get some Ghosts. Maybe try and get some Libs. I guess I'm saying all of this, but you've got to remember as well, INnoVation isn't exactly rich right now. While it's been kind of a lot of bases for him, he's been trading out all this time. So it's not like he's got a ton of money banked up. He's got a bit of gas in the bank. But anything you build into, like a lot of Libs or a lot of Ghosts, is expensive. And to get a lot of them is tough, especially when Dark is also still playing this scrappier kind of style himself. It's just the Lurkers that make you kind of feel as though maybe something of a change is needed in all of this. Resources lost still very even. 42,000 across the board from either player or thereabouts. 1,000 or so difference here or there. At this stage, that's not a lot as we see INnoVation coming around the right side and able to deny the base again. Base denial has been so very important as he spreads out. Dark actually just unburrows those Lurkers and brings them away. Another fight over here. INnoVation is going to go running towards Widowmines for aid. Help them clear out some of these lower tech units, such as these Lings that run in high numbers. Widowmines give themselves up because Overseer is there, and INnoVation just has to keep on running. Oh, more Lings on the way out from Dark, who is still just pumping those units as well. Still just going to be seeing our Bioforce from INnoVation trying to press forwards. And this is definition of like a scrappy ZvT. A bit all over the place, bases dropping, players trying to re-establish with orbital commands even on these, 6, 7 bases of the game. Widowmine gets to go off and actually will help to kill the Overlord before it gets corrosive biled. Again, this is not a bio army that can realistically sit here and fight, especially as the Lurkers burrow up. You just have to get out of there. So you will kite away, but he's doing pretty alright. Picking off a good amount of Zerglings as he goes. Now he'll lift up and really take the opportunity to leave. Reinforcements back on the top side, but it does start to feel as though now Dark is getting into a bit of a better position here, right? It's starting to set up into a bit of a stronger scenario. As those lurkers will burrow once again. A couple of corruptors coming in towards this orbital command. On the bottom left-hand side, INnoVation is going to come through. Think about running down to this base as the Spore Crawler taking some damage. Zergling's running into this, and the Banes coming through as well. A couple of corruptors coming into the center. Now the bio of INnoVation down the right. It's going to go find a bunch of drones also. Lurkers here will burrow up. Planetary Fortress taken down. A bunch of workers continuing to fall as lurkers are dropping. These couple of extra drones are still going down as well. I mean, INnoVation's still finding damage, but he really is drying up a little bit. He's missing economy. He misses another base to mine from. His fourth is gone. His third is gone. He needs this fifth, which is half gone as well. So INnoVation's income of the last moment or two has really died off, and that's going to be Dark's winning condition here, essentially. The fact that he's not let INnoVation take another base now, because Dark still has some money to work with, albeit not a lot. He's fallen into a similar scenario himself. He just has that one extra base or so to make the difference right here. Now INnoVation's traded a little bit worse across this fight or two as well. It's going to be tough for him to take a base as Medevacs will boost away, lifting up what they can to escape with this, but Dark is looking fantastic to perhaps take a game number 4 of this best of 7 for his team. Put them up onto match point. And looking real crazy as tons of SCVs going down. These lurkers getting a lot of damage done. I mean, that's it, right? I mean, even if you had a base to send workers to, now you don't have workers to send to bases. And actually, INnoVation gets the bottom left and he mules away to get just a little bit of money. Anything he can bring into, his purse right now, into his bank account. He needs anything possible, but he just can't find it. And in the end, Dark is going to win what really was. I mean, scrappy is definitely the word for it. I think the lurker switch was a really nice one based on how INnoVation was playing. And it really helped solidify some of these fights for Dark and make the difference. And helped him hold some bases as well, which really did make a big difference too, of course. GG's, and Dark takes that game down. But again, love the way he played. It was definitely different. It was definitely kind of off, a little off meta. Like, it's again, you see lurkers in ZvT, but not late game transition. You don't transition into them late game, right? Dark played a great game in the end. And I mean, INnoVation did too. Just, it comes down to if INnoVation holds one more base for a few extra seconds, like maybe he overruns and maybe he kills an extra base. Maybe Dark is in that running out of money scenario where suddenly he just can't mine. GG's, fantastic game though, and Dark will take DPG up 3-1.